The Halloween season is upon us, and in honor of that, today I'll be taking a look at some of the scariest cartoon villains to ever creep onto our TV screens. Which ones are just a little spooky, which ones are truly frightening, and which ones are about as scary as like a plastic bag. What the fuck? There are thousands of cartoon villains out there, but today I've pulled together 25 of the most memorable, the ones that sort of stuck with me as a kid and some that still kind of freak me out as an adult. I tried to stick to only one or two per show because let's be honest, I could fill this entire list with characters from Courage the Cowardly Dog. So let's kick things off with one that sort of inspired me to make this list. Him, Powerpuff Girls. Most Powerpuff Girls villains were kind of silly. You've got a talking monkey yelling about bananas, trying to take over the world. Fuzzy Lumpkins, some big pink monstrosity that plays the banjo. But then you had him. He's got crab claws, high heels, a Santa beard, and then a squeaky falsetto voice that can turn into like a demonic growl at the drop of a hat. He was basically like pure nightmare fuel in drag. By far the most terrifying villain on the show. While the other bad guys were focused on like robbing banks or taking over the town, it seems like him was more focused on just causing pure chaos and mischief. He's evil, diabolical, ruthless, and he has almost this like otherworldly presence to him, being able to warp reality, mind control people, teleport, and do pretty much anything and everything that he has to in order to cause the chaos that he wants. I do think there's probably scarier villains on this list, but this is a pretty good start. So I think we're going to start off on an A tier. The Stag Man, regular show. A bit of a minor character, but I think one of the most upsetting in the entire series. Stag Man is a half deer, half human hybrid who thinks of himself as like the guardian of the forest. When he comes across our group of characters camping and not really respecting the woods, he decides to take matters into his own hands and hunt them down, chasing them into the night with nothing but a bow and arrow. And even though he gives them a little bit of a head start, he is just absolutely relentless when it comes to him hunting them down. He's strong, fast, menacing, and if it weren't for his deer half getting caught in the headlights of a park ranger, he probably would have had Mordecai and Rigby stuffed and mounted by the end of the episode. I think he's definitely a bit intimidating in the short time that we get with him, and he's definitely got some pretty creepy vibes going on. But honestly, he's not even the scariest deer on our list, so I'm going to say C tier. Skeletor, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. One of the most iconic villains on our list, being the main antagonist of the He-Man universe, Skeletor definitely has all the makings of a great villain. He's pretty powerful, being a demon from a dark dimension, commanding an entire army to do his bidding to help him take over the universe. He's got like dark magic abilities, has the brains to make plenty of evil weapons and machinery, and he's even pretty capable in hand-to-hand combat. Throw in the fact that he's a fucking skeleton, and you'd probably think this guy's pretty intense and scary. But then he opens his damn mouth.
Take your last look. You won't see it again. Oh no.
And yeah, that pretty much ruins that for me. If he was just like stoic and silent throughout the series, he would be intimidating as hell. But the second he opens his mouth, he just becomes so like cartoonishly evil that it's kind of hard to take him seriously. Like most of the time he moves past scary and into like campy territory. I'm thinking he's going on C tier. Father, codename Kids Next Door. The arch nemesis of the KND, Father was basically like a flaming shadow demon in a show about kids with a giant treehouse. He definitely felt pretty out of place in the show, like everything's sort of cartoonish and zany, and then you've got him. Even the delightful children were scared of him, and they're creepy as hell. Although he usually sent other villains out to do his bidding, when he actually showed up, you knew shit was about to go down. He's not necessarily as like evil and cunning as a lot of the other characters here, but he's impatient and ill-tempered and just powerful and angry enough that I wouldn't really want to be on his bad side. I'm feeling a B tier. Dick Dastardly, Wacky Races. I guess how scared you are of this guy sort of depends on how scared you are of people twirling their mustaches. Sure, he's constantly scheming, but those schemes almost always tend to blow up in his face, sometimes literally. As his name implies, he's for sure dastardly, but he's so unsuccessful in every attempt that it's just purely comedic. There's pretty much like nothing scary in the slightest going on here, so I'm going with a D tier. Dr. Drakken, Kim Possible. Drakken looks pretty intimidating at first. He's got the blue skin, the black hair, the evil lair. But after spending some time in the show with him, you come to realize he's kind of just a dork. This guy's less scary villain and more evil scientist wannabe. Sure, he's always got some like nefarious plans going on, but they're almost always interrupted by, high schoolers. I mean, the guy's even been bested by Ron Stoppable himself. Let's be real. We all know Shigo did all of the heavy lifting here, so I'm going to put him on C tier. The Lich, Adventure Time. Don't lie, this was like the most bone-chilling moment in the entire show.
fall.
The Lich sort of seems to just be like death incarnate. No goofy banter, no silly gimmicks, just pure evil in a children's show. Every time that he shows up in the show, you sort of clench up a little bit because you know some unsettling, creepy shit is about to happen. He doesn't even like move fast or yell at the characters or anything. He just sort of exists in this state of pure evil. And sometimes that's enough to make you feel like you're watching something you probably shouldn't be. This guy's an S tier villain, no doubt. The Stag, Adventure Time. Now, the Lich may be terrifying in like an end-of-the-world demonic kind of way, but this damn deer might be one of the creepiest things I ever saw. He shows up to kidnap all the candy people and drag them into the sewer, but not before beating the absolute shit out of both Finn and Jake. This thing was just uncanny valley nightmare fuel. Even the way he moved, it was like smooth and twitchy, but in this like weird way. Nothing should move like that. And then when he takes the damn hooves off, it's like, all right, I'm going to turn this off and go hop in the shower real quick. Sometimes the scariest thing in a kid's show is just the vibes, and this guy's vibes are way off. We're going A tier. King Ramses, Courage the Cowardly Dog. You kind of had to know this was coming, right? I don't think there's much out there that scarred as many kids as this guy did. Ramses is the ghost of a pharaoh who brings plagues upon Courage's house when his slab is stolen and Eustace refuses to give it back. His stiff movements, his low droning voice, and just the animation of this guy itself is just so unsettling. And you know that phrase, "Return the slab." What? Still lives rent-free in so many former kids' heads. This wasn't just like a cartoon villain, this was like a PSA against watching TV with the lights off. When I think of things that I saw on TV as a kid that scared the shit out of me, this is probably like a top 3. Easy S tier. Spirit of the Harvest Moon, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Courage had plenty of like creepy and unsettling characters, but the Spirit just sort of like hit differently. This guy looks like he stepped right out of like a cursed children's book. And honestly, he's sort of like polite the whole time. But just the appearance of this guy alone is kind of hard for me to look at. Like, even while making this video, this is the one character that, like, I keep catching glimpses of him and I'm like, ugh. He's not even, like, scary, really, in a way. Just super unsettling and really unnerving. Like, he's not even, like, evil per se. Just hard for me to look at. I honestly wish he wasn't as polite to the characters as he is, because I feel kind of bad about how much he freaks me out. But we're going to put him on A tier. Summerween Trickster, Gravity Falls. A folklore legend in the town of Gravity Falls, this guy's like a mysterious trickster who punishes children when they don't celebrate the spirit of Summerween. You know, by fucking eating them. He's got a creepy design for sure, and his motives and means of punishment are, you know, pretty messed up. And while his true appearance is definitely a bit on, you know, the unsettling side, I honestly think he looks a little bit scarier with like the fake plastic mask on that he has when he first shows up. You know, this guy's definitely a bit on the scary side until you get the reveal that he's pretty much a piñata. Like, he's literally just made up of shitty candy. Like, if I had the chance, I would 100% beat the shit out of him with a baseball bat and eat what comes out. So I'm gonna go B tier. Bill Cipher, Gravity Falls. And now we get the real big bad of Gravity Falls. This guy starts off pretty goofy, but when he gets serious, it can be pretty frightening. Like, a floating triangle with a bow tie shouldn't be inherently scary, but when he starts to like warp reality and possess your friends and try to end the world while cracking jokes the whole time, it gets a little bit scary. And honestly, just personally, there's something about this guy that just always made me feel a bit uneasy. I think it's the fact that this guy's main thing is like traversing the multiverse and traveling through dimensions. So while I don't think he's gonna like pop out of my screen and show up behind me while making this video, it's not a 0% chance either. Dude just sort of gives me the heebie-jeebies. So I'm going to say A tier. Trigon, Teen Titans. Trigon is for sure not somebody you want to mess with. This guy's a giant red interdimensional demon who's actually the father of one of the main characters, Raven. This guy's known to be basically the pure manifestation of evil itself. He's giant, opposing, powerful, but also cunning and deceptive. And he cares about absolutely nothing besides taking over the world, even trying to use his own daughter to accomplish his goals. He's definitely like a pretty intimidating character, but I don't think as a kid I was ever like scared of this guy or anything. So I think I'd put him on B tier. Slade, Teen Titans. Slade, also known as Deathstroke, might not be the most powerful villains that the team ever had to face, but he's probably the most menacing. He was always less about like jump scares or anything and more about just psychological manipulation, constantly deceiving and manipulating the Titans and pretty much anyone around him to whatever means he saw fit. Like, this guy lived in Robin's brain rent-free so badly at one point that he caused him to just have like a psychological meltdown. He basically lived for tormenting this group of teens, which is kind of a weird hobby, but hey, at least the guy has hobbies. And he always had this like calm and unnerving presence to him, even in the middle of a fight. But even when he wasn't on screen, rest assured, he was always in the background causing chaos from the sidelines. I think Slade's gonna join his buddy Trigon and go in B tier. Plankton, SpongeBob SquarePants. Plankton's whole evil shtick is pretty much just stealing a burger recipe. This little pipsqueak couldn't even scare a sponge. Literally. This is just another case of a villain with pretty much nothing scary about them. He's always making evil plans, but they're always failing and usually being usurped by like the dumbest fish in the sea. Plankton's going on D tier. Come on. Koh the Face Stealer, Avatar. Koh is this like otherworldly entity with a giant enormous centipede-like body and the ability to steal and use other people's faces, as his name might suggest. This guy spends basically all of his time waiting for the chance to frighten and terrorize people so that way they show a little bit of emotion, in which case he can then steal their face. Blink wrong and boom, face is stolen. This guy's less of like a villain though and more of just like a sleep paralysis demon. Like, he's not technically evil really, he's not going out of his way to steal people's faces, but people come to him to answer questions and it's sort of like a 50-50 chance. Either you get an answer or you don't have a face. So, you know, a bit of a toss-up there. His appearance alone, though, might be one of the most frightening things to ever be shown on Nickelodeon, outside of Mr. Meaty. Like, this guy looks absolutely terrifying, and I would 100% lose my face if I ever saw him. Gonna go with S tier. Aku, Samurai Jack. One of the few villains who technically succeeded in their attempts to take over the world. A demonic, shape-shifting being who's pretty much the manifestation of just pure evil and darkness. I mean, the guy's name literally translates to evil in Japanese, and boy does he live up to that name. This guy has slaughtered thousands, caused massive genocides while just, you know, enjoying the fact that he's causing all of this harm and chaos. He's unhinged, chaotic, and just a homicidal maniac that wants nothing more than to rule the world with an iron fist and destroy anyone that opposes him. But for being such an evil guy, he was also kind of like the funniest character in the whole show. Like, he's got this dry sense of humor throughout the whole thing, and it was even known to break the fourth wall every now and then, which definitely made you sort of let your guard down with him and take him a little less seriously. But then once that flip switched and he turned back to evil, it was like, oh yeah, this guy is scary as hell. Gonna say A tier. Sideshow Bob, The Simpsons. One of the biggest hurdles throughout America's longest running cartoon show, but especially for Bart Simpson himself. He was originally the sidekick character for Krusty the Clown before returning to a life of crime and trying to frame him, which Bart ends up uncovering, leading to a whole lifelong quest to, you know, murder a child. And he has gotten pretty close sometimes, but outside of like the Treehouse of Horror episodes, it's obviously never happened. But damn if he's not trying. He's pretty capable and smart and able to be sort of cunning in his plans to, you know, get Bart. You know, he's a homicidal stalker who's trying to murder a child, but that child seems to be able to outsmart him at pretty much every turn. Either that or a poorly placed rake. So I was just never really able to take him too seriously, so we're gonna go C tier. Zs'Skayr, Ben 10. Skinless alien ghost with a creepy voice? Check. Popping out of your own body to possess you? Double check. Originally stuck in the form of Ghost Freak, an alien that Ben was able to transform into. Zs'Skayr eventually made his way out of the Omnitrix and decided to try to take over the world. He's vicious, manipulative, power-hungry, and pretty powerful, but he's also pretty cunning and smart too. Willing to backstab and get rid of pretty much anyone. But even like personality aside, this dude is creepy as hell. Like, his appearance as Ghost Freak wasn't too bad at all, but the second he escapes and sort of like transforms into his real form, he's basically sort of like a nightmare come to life. I think he's gonna go on A tier. Doofenshmirtz, Phineas and Ferb. Come on. Unless you're scared of like a pharmacist, Doof ain't scary. He's just sort of like a bumbling dork who sometimes is really good at making innators for some reason, but he's also just so much of a doofus that it doesn't really matter. He's constantly being stopped by either a platypus or doing something himself. But the guy's backstories, that's pretty horrifying. Like, this dude's childhood is so scary it could fill a whole trilogy of horror movies. As a villain, though, he's kind of like Wile E. Coyote in a lab coat. If anything, he could be a nice guy from time to time, too. Doof's going on D tier. Vlad, Danny Phantom. In a show that's filled to the brim with ghostly characters, Vlad was always the one that sort of like stood out to me. He's half human, half ghost, sort of like Danny, and used to be friends with Danny's dad. He's sort of like the main antagonist, I'd say. And this guy's a bit of a conniving bastard. He's always scheming and plotting his revenge on both Danny and his father. And he's pretty like arrogant and cruel for the most part, but doesn't seem to be like necessarily evil. He's just kind of like vindictive and holds a grudge. In his ghost form, he's got all the usual ghost powers, but in being a lot more experienced than Danny, he's got a lot better control over them and is able to use them to like their full potential. He's a cool villain, he's got a pretty solid design, but scary? Not really. Like, this guy comes across more as like a bitter divorced uncle who happens to have ghost powers. Vlad's gonna go on C tier. X.A.N.A, Code Lyoko. A super intelligent computer program that serves as the main antagonist of the series. It's less of like a physical villain and more of like an unseen evil force, which can be a bit more frightening. It's incredibly powerful and self-aware, but also hostile and dangerous. And since it's a computer program, it doesn't really have emotions or anything, like it's not vengeful and hateful. It's just solely focused on the task of taking over the world. It's an evil computer program that can possess both people and machines. Like, that's pretty unsettling, especially nowadays with how overrun everything is with like AI. This just gets a little bit more creepy and maybe realistic year after year. Thankfully though, this whole show is shrouded in like janky 2000s CGI, which makes it a little bit less frightening. So we're gonna say B tier. The Huntsman, American Dragon Jake Long. The main antagonist of the show, this guy's sort of like your classic scary hunter archetype. Always out trying to hunt down not just Jake, but pretty much any other magical creature he comes across. This guy's the leader of an entire clan of huntsmen and has this like deep hatred for pretty much any magical creature trying to eliminate the world of them. He's imposing, a skilled fighter and hunter, and has this sort of like stoic, serious, menacing vibe to him pretty much anytime he's on screen. Like, he's pretty intimidating on paper. But at the same time, he's just sort of this cranky guy that's trying to kill a bunch of teenagers and fairies and shit. I'm gonna go B tier for him as well. Sabrina, Pokemon. Although I don't know if I'd technically call her a villain, she's definitely an antagonist when we first meet her and a bit nefarious and unsettling. Like, she's not just one of the toughest gym leaders that Ash had to face, but probably the creepiest. She's not just a psychic Pokemon trainer, but she's a psychic Pokemon trainer, having psychic powers of her own. Not just that, but she's got this like split personality that she actually physically splits off, having the cold, unnerving side inside of herself and then the cheerful, joyful side in this little creepy ass doll. She's also got the ability to shrink people down to like doll size and even turn them into dolls themselves. Eventually, Ash does get like her joyful side to come out with the help of Haunter. But before that, she was probably the creepiest thing that they'd come across in the whole show. She's definitely more on like the unsettling side than like terrifying, but I wouldn't want to battle her. I think she's going to go on B tier as well. And last up, the Beast, Over the Garden Wall. So this show is like a Halloween staple for me, and while most of the time it has this sort of like fantastical, surreal vibe going for it, once the Beast shows up, that shifts dramatically. The main antagonist of the whole show, he's sort of this like primal evil spirit that's feared as this sort of like legend throughout all of the unknown. You know, he's got the sole goal of just capturing people and using them as basically firewood for his lantern. He's a master of deception and manipulation while also being like eerily calm and collected most of the time. He spends the majority of the show just sort of like shrouded in shadows, except for a couple glimpses you get here and there of his true nature, which is just fucking horrifying. This guy's not gonna like chase you and scream at you. He's just gonna sort of show up and whisper in your ear until you're lost forever. Like, he's straight up something out of a campfire story, but not the fun kind. The Beast is full-blown S tier territory. And there you have it, my list of the scariest villains from animated shows. Do you agree with my rankings for these characters? Are there other ones that haunted your nightmares as a kid that you would throw on the list? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. What about movie villains?